sappiate, questo è un po' il fulcro e il motivo iniziale della nostra conference, che poi si è sposata con la sesta conferenza della Federation for Existential Therapy in Europe, e quindi ha avuto un taglio un po' diverso di quello iniziale, ma penso assolutamente più completo da questo punto di vista. Questa sezione vorrebbe interrogarvi e discutere con tutti voi, quindi vi prego poi dopo di intervenire, infatti avremo uno spazio abbastanza lungo, sulle necessità delle scuole, cioè che cosa le scuole devono proporre ai loro studenti. Come ho accennato nelle mie introduzioni, nelle newsletter che voi avete letto nell'introduzione alla conferenza, ci sono tantissime differenze, ce ne parlerà credo anche dal punto di vista diciamo sociale Edgar, tantissime differenze di programmi di scuole di psicoterapia esistenziale. Ci sono tantissime differenze anche per le diverse legislazioni. Ad esempio, faccio sempre l'esempio di cui parlava ieri l'avvocato Razza, come voi sapete in UK la scuola è si diventa psicoterapeuti con un percorso di laurea, quindi partendo è un percorso di laurea. In Italia noi invece per diventare psicoterapeuti dobbiamo prima laurearci o in medicina o in psicologia, quindi fare una specializzazione in psicoterapia. La specializzazione in psicoterapia include anche un tirocinio pratico, per cui praticamente il percorso per uno psicoterapeuta italiano non è inferiore ai 10 anni, ok? Quindi è molto più complesso. E sono molte le differenze. Una delle differenze fondamentali che io noto, e molti dei colleghi che ho avuto il piacere di conoscere in questi anni e con cui ho scambiato idee, informazioni e a volte con cui ho avuto il piacere e l'onore di scrivere alcuni libri che alcuni di voi conoscono, e con quello che ho potuto notare è che per esempio non in tutte le scuole è importante la clinica, come per esempio è importante in Italia, perché noi come psicoterapeuti italiani lavoriamo molto con persone che hanno problemi psichiatrici anche gravi, parliamo di schizofrenici, di disturbi bipolari, di depressione maggiore, quindi parliamo di malattie importanti, per cui è necessario, e per noi è per esempio un fondamento della nostra scuola, un lavoro di integrazione, integrated therapy, terapia integrata. Noi lavoriamo insieme, ecco c'è il professore Brancaleone, Ferdinando Brancaleone, io tantissimi pazienti come psichiatra che seguo farmacologicamente, Ferdinando Brancaleone li segue in psicoterapia e spesso abbiamo un altro collega che fa da counselor, che supporta praticamente le scelte fatte dalla terapia integrata. È un lavoro molto impegnativo dove praticamente ciò che è estremamente importante non è tanto ciò che si fa, ma è ciò che si pensa. Come noi come ci approcciamo a questo tipo di problemi, come noi abbiamo la disponibilità di interloquire con l'altro professionista sapendo abbastanza bene qual è il compito dell'altro professionista. E credo che sia per me uno dei fondamenti del futuro della psicoterapia esistenziale. Non vi prendo più tempo perché siamo tanti e dobbiamo cercare di dare anche spazio alla discussione dopo. Credo che sia il punto focale del nostro impegno. Quindi chiamo Edgar Correa, cortesemente. Dove sta? Ah, sei qui. Ah, non ti vedevo più. Lui ha svolto, sei from Portugal, yes? Portugal. La scuola è?
The Portuguese Society for Existential
Ok,
Psychotherapy.
ok, l'avete sentito, quindi non c'è problema. Lui ha svolto già in passato, adesso l'ha ripreso, un ottimo lavoro cercando di recuperare tutte le scuole di terapia esistenziale nel mondo ed è stato pubblicato 5 anni fa, no, 4 anni fa.
10 years.
10 years. I am very old now. 10 years old, ok, 10 anni fa, ma adesso lui sta ripubblicando la nuova edizione implementata. Lascio a lui la parola che ci darà un po' il piano, il quadro della situazione nel mondo e quindi poi proseguiremo con le scuole così come c'è nell'elenco, le scuole come avete visto nell'elenco del programma. Grazie.
Okay, I'll do a presentation. Probably I need that the chairs aren't blocking the diagram. Hi, I have a 25 minutes presentation that I'll have to present in 10 minutes, so we'll have to be really quick, and I'm sorry for that. Okay, this was made between me and my Portuguese colleague, Rita Stanislau. Then she will be, if you are interested, in the afternoon, she will present two posters with the main data also. So I'll be fast here, but then you can go outside and see the poster in the beginning of the afternoon, okay? Okay, this, as Gianfranco said, this is a replication study, but we did something more. We replicated a study that we did in 2012 for the first time, and then we thought that would be interesting, not only searching, doing a systematic online search for existential psychotherapy, for existential institutions around the world, but also to ask them to validate that data and to ask a few questions more. We were also interested in knowing some things about them, like what were the main authors for their psychological understanding, and also the main authors that are behind their practice, their clinical practice. So we did, in the first phase, an online search for the existential societies around the world, and then we sent them a questionnaire to ask a few questions. And this is the timetable and the strategy for implementing this study. Between January and the end of May of 2023, we did the online search for existential psychotherapies around the world, existential societies, institutions around the world. And between the 1st of June and the 24th of July of 2023, we sent emails for the 210 institutions that we found around the globe. And then, between the 6th and the 8th of October, we sent a reminder email to try to have more responses to our questionnaire. And between the 17th and the 19th of November, we sent a second reminder email, and in the 19th of December of 2023, we concluded the questionnaire. This presentation I will do here will focus only on the questionnaire. Then you can see the first poster Rita will be presenting in the afternoon. We'll have data from the systematic online search. But now we will focus only on the questionnaires that were answered back by the institutions. This is institutions answering us, not existential therapists, okay? So, we did an online questionnaire using the SurveyMonkey platform, and it was available in 2 different languages, Portuguese and English. That was because it was the languages that we dominated best. The questionnaire had 20 questions divided in two sections. The first section was the demographic information, name, who was the president of the board, things that could be disclosed. And this part of the questionnaire, we asked authorization to disclose, was not a confidential part of the questionnaire. Then there was a confidential part of the questionnaire that we asked more sensible questions about their theoretical and methodological frameworks, number of members of that institutions, how many times and how frequent they did scientific meetings and so forth. Okay, but let's look at that data. Before that, well, you may ask, but what institutions were that? And this was the inclusion criteria. They have to be institutions that self-identified as part of the so-called existential psychotherapists. They should see themselves as, I'm an existential therapy institution, and whose mission is to promote, study, develop, or teach existential therapy. The exclusion criteria, of course, is the contrary. Respondents that did not characterize their institution as belonging to the so-called existential psychotherapies, or those who define their institution as a private practice or clinic. Okay? The survey should be completed by a member of the board or someone mandated by the board. Okay? And as I told you before, we sent 210 emails that from the institutions that we found out on the systematic online search, and 203 were successfully delivered. And we had 90 responses, so a response rate of 44%. 7 questionnaires were excluded as they were responded by private practices or clinics. So we had 83 valid participants from 37 different countries. So we are at least spread for 37 countries. That is confirmed data. The systematic online search, we have more, I think it's 50, isn't it, Rita? Okay, but this data is not validated. This is validated data. So I will cut this because I don't have too much time. And this is how we are spread around the world. And Yaki was right yesterday that there are more than Europe and United States. So, of course, Europe had more than 50% of the societies, of the institutions that responded to this questionnaire, and they are spread on 22 countries. Then comes, I think, Latin America, isn't it? Yes, then comes Latin America, not North America, with 7 countries participating in this study. 22%, and North America, 11% of the institutions that responded our questionnaire. And then Asia, we already have existential institutions in 3 different countries, at least, and 1 in Africa. Okay, and Oceania, of course. And this is how these institutions characterize themselves. Most of them were institutes, schools, or colleges or departments for training existential clinical psychologists, psychotherapists, or counselors. Most of them were professional courses, but 88% were academic courses. Okay? And then we had a big branch of non-profit scientific institutions, 36%, and 70% didn't disclose, put only as others, but didn't specify what kind of institutions were them. This is something interesting and shows how we are growing. This is the founding years of these institutions. As you see, the curve is exponential. More than half of the institutions, almost 52%, were founded in the last 20 years. Okay? Between 2004 and 2013, we saw the greatest increase of existential psychotherapy institutions. And this is also interesting. The vast majority of the institutions have 100 or less members in the institution. For me, it clearly says how young we still are. Almost all these institutions are have less than 20 years, so they are still growing and with few members. Only 2 institutions have more than 600 members. One is in the United States and another one is in Europe. And this says about the scientific vitality of these institutions. Almost 70%, 67.5%, regularly promote scientific meetings, group meetings, congresses, symposiums, debates, and so forth, in a regular way. And see, monthly, there's 25% of the institutions have monthly gatherings, scientific monthly gatherings. Then we asked, that was the question that we aimed the most, was to understand what were the theoretical, theoretical framework that underpins their understanding of existential psychotherapy. And that question permitted 3 different answers, so they can give 3 different answers for this question. And what was interesting, not surprising, but was interesting, is that they didn't give a kind of idea of their theoretical framework, they give authors, okay? Next time you have to do the question on a different way, to see if they explain what they understand theoretically. Sorry, I'm mixing the questions. This question was, what branch of existential psychotherapy do you identify with your institution? Okay, and they can give different answers too. And we had 9 different branches of existential psychotherapy, and 25% of our participants identified their institution as belonging to more than one branch of existential psychotherapy. Sorry for the confusion on the previous explanation. So 22 institutions identified their institution as belonging to more than one branch of existential psychotherapies. And this is the 9 branches that these 87 institutions identified with. Dasein analysis, existential analysis of Alfred Lang, existential humanistic, logotherapy, meaning-centered psychotherapies, phenomenological psychotherapy, existential phenomenological, experiential existential, and intensive therapeutic life. Okay? So we could say that this is the different branches that nowadays existential institutions identify with. They all see themselves as existential psychotherapy, but they identify with these 9 different branches. And the branch with more institutions participating in our research was logotherapy, followed by existential phenomenological and existential humanistic. Okay, and this is the question about the authors that I was referring a few minutes ago. The question was you could read like this: specify which are the main theories and or authors underlying the theoretical models for understanding the human being and their suffering in your institution. And again, what came was authors and not main theories. Okay, and Viktor Frankl, not surprisingly, came as the author most referred by the participants, was mentioned by 43% of the institutions. Then came Heidegger with 42% of the institution, 42.5% of the institutions. Then Kierkegaard, 40%, Medard Boss, 40%, and Jean-Paul Sartre. But this is the whole of the institutions. Then we did a more refined search, and we separated the authors by branch, by identification of institutions by branch. And the design analytic institutions voted as Martin Heidegger as the main author, understanding their understanding of human being and their suffering, appeared in 80% of the design analytic institutions, okay? And 40% of the design analytic institutions voted Bieswanger as the main author. The existential analysis of Alfred Lang, Viktor Frankl was the most frequent one, followed by Martin Heidegger and Buber. For the existential humanistic, Viktor Frankl and Martin Heidegger were the most frequent. Logotherapy, not surprisingly, Viktor Frankl was the most frequent, followed by Heidegger and Elisabeth Lucas. 2 minutes? Okay, I have to run. Viktor Frankl was the most frequent for the meaning-centered psychotherapies, the phenomenological therapy, Kierkegaard, interesting, and Martin Heidegger. And for the existential phenomenological, Martin Heidegger and Medard Boss. And for the experiential existential, not surprisingly, Eugene Gindley. Then we ask, what about the practices? Specify the main theories and authors underlying your institution psychotherapeutic intervention model. We wanted to know what were the authors that were underlying their intervention, their clinical model. And Viktor Frankl came again as the most mentioned, then Elisabeth Lucas, then Emmy van Derzen, then Martin Heidegger, then Spinelli, and finally Alfred Lang with the same percentage as Spinelli. Then we did the same thing, the refined, and Dasein analysis was Heidegger and Bieswanger, the most frequent. For existential analysis, Alfred Lang, of course, and Viktor Frankl. For the existential humanistic, we had Bugenthal, Spinelli, Martin Heidegger, and Viktor Frankl. Logotherapy, Viktor Frankl, Elisabeth Lucas. meaning-centered therapy, Viktor Frankl, phenomenological psychotherapy, EMI, Viktor Frankl, Heidegger, and Spinelli, and for the existential phenomenological, EMI, Viktor Frankl, Ernesto, and Martin Heidegger. And then Eugene Gendlin, of course, for experiential existential. Okay, and I wanted to say that all these data, these differences between schools, between branches, we did also inductive analysis. We did a regression analysis to understand if these differences are significant, and they are. Of course, we don't have time to present the logistic regressions that we made, but we will publish this probably at the until the end of the year, so you can see all the data that is very extensive in that publication. Okay, thank you so much, and sorry for being so fast.
Bene. Now is the humanist. This is another language. Humanistis ir existentis sines. Please, I'm sorry, but oh, okay.
Well, translated into English, it's the Institute of Humanistic and Existential Psychotherapy. We are based in Lithuania, and we are, I would say, relatively old. We are 30 years old now. We started exactly 30 years ago. This was quite specific time for our region. We were just leaving the socialist camp, so to say. The Soviet Union was collapsing. It collapsed, actually, and psychotherapy, being quite suppressed during the Soviet times, was just an empty place. There was no real psychotherapy in those times, no structured psychotherapeutic training. So in a few years, we with colleagues realized that we need some kind of training to be designed and implemented. And thus we started at 1995 from scratch, I would say. The main author, the main driving force behind this was Rimantas Kočiūnas. Unfortunately, he could not attend this meeting and speak here. So the beginning was quite modest, and it was oriented basically to those countries that were emerging from the Soviet Union. This was Estonia, Latvia, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and further on. So in 30 years, our program grew considerably. There were more programs, existential therapy being the main one. And let's say we have now, currently we have about 150 students enrolled every day, so to say. Within these 30 years, we perhaps have about 1,000 graduates. This, okay, maybe it doesn't sound impressive Europe-wide, but for us, a small country, and other countries also being not very big, except, let's say, Russia, this was a considerable achievement, I would say. And this resulted in us having a big community, which is now called the Eastern European Association for Existential Therapy, having something close to 400 members from very, very wide geographical territory, because due to certain political events, the war that was started by Russia in 2022, we stopped accepting students from from Russia, but we still have quite a few Russian students that have emigrated from Russia and live in very different places of the world. So that's what can be told historically. And of course, we grew considerably in the sense of our staff, because if we started with maybe 6, 7 teachers, so now we have a very nice and very qualified, and I would say young team of teachers, about 30. And we have a very active and qualified pool of supervisors and therapists who provide personal therapy for our students. So this activity has really grown considerably. Now, speaking about our program, extension therapy program, once again, in the beginning it was something like 200 hours only within the scope of 18 months. Now it is 620 hours within the scope of 2 years. Our format is seminars of about 2 weeks long. Those seminars are residential. Students are coming to stay at our facilities. And all what is happening is really experienced, close and personal. And this gives a very good atmosphere and very good soil to grow the existential worldview, which we consider the main task of our program, of our work. Taking more narrowly, this is existential stance of the therapist, and perhaps this is the most complicated task. Okay, to describe how we do that, probably the same like to tell how we teach wisdom, referring to the presentation yesterday. So, of course, we teach a lot of basic skills, that are absolutely necessary for psychotherapists. But the main task is, as I have said, is just to have our graduates have existential worldview. Then it is much easier to maintain existential phenomenological stance during therapeutic hours. We don't have clinics. Our students do not work with real patients during seminars. Of course, they do have their practice. This practice is supervised, especially in the beginning stages, supervised quite strictly by our team of supervisors. And the main method, so to say, the main technique in training is individual and group supervisions within the group, which are facilitated and supervised by our qualified supervisors. Well, our theoretical orientation is, I would say, quite wide. Of course, we mainly base on, as it was just shown, Martin Heidegger, Medard Boss, Martin Buber, Emma van Durzen, and Ernesto Spinelli, from those present here. But we try to introduce into our training curriculum as wide range of theories as possible. Maybe because our institute started, as I said, in the empty place, no traditions, no authority figures, so to say, for our training. So we were inventing the program ourselves. Once again, this was the deed by Rimantas Kočiūnas. And that's why we felt free to use whatever we could find in the world by then. Well, of course, maybe we are more oriented to the English-speaking, English writing authors, so to say, just because English language is more easily acceptable. But we try to integrate both European and American theories in our training. Yes, and maybe we have just one student of ours who have been trained from the very beginning to the very end, and now is on our training staff. Maybe she can add something to my words. Well, she's Agne Jurgaitytė.
No, okay, I'll say quickly. It's unexpected. I didn't prepare a speech. I can just share. I joined the Institute 2000, 25 years ago. It was just young clinical psychologist after university. And I can say that I've grown up in this institute. It took all my life. As a young mother, and after the scientist, I made a PhD research on the existential topic. And it's really particular studies because we lived here 2 weeks as a group. And dynamic, it's very active. And we not just learn about how to be wise, we need to interact, to make friends, have conflicts, solve them, and in very close environment. So it's just not about teaching, it's really about experiencing. So thank you, Institute, and thank you for hearing my story. Okay.
Oh, learn Italian. We will discover a lot of the interesting ideas. Let's Spanish. Now diamo la parola al Circolo de Estudios en Terapia Existencial. My friend Yaki Martinez Robles.
Hi. Well, the Círculo de Estudios en Terapia Existencial, or Circle of Studies in Existential Therapy, or as we like to call it, just CIREX, is easier. But there's a lot of people that doesn't have the headphones. Yeah, so English, it's okay. I will try. And you know, the beginning was in 1999. I was working as a Gestalt therapist. That was my first training. And a friend of mine gave me a book called Existential Psychotherapy, written by Irving Yalom. And that blows my mind. And I immediately fall in love with Irving Yalom's books. I read all of them. I really love them. And I want to become trained in existential therapy. So I search at the internet, where can I become trained in existential therapy? But you know, that was 1999. There's almost nothing on the internet about training institutes. But I found a page, the irvingyalom.com webpage. So I write him, what can I do? Because I want to become trained. And he answers that, till his knowledge, at this moment, there's no place in the world where I can become trained. But he invited me to go to the US for the Evolution of Psychotherapy conference in the 2000, the year 2000. I went, I met him in person, we have a conversation, and I told him that I really want to become trained. What can I do? do you train? Can you train me? And he said, no, I don't. I said, what can I do? I really want to become an existential therapist. He said, well, read. I said, okay, I already read all your books and all Rollo May's books, because there's more or less similar style. So I read all your books, all Rollo May's books, and I want more. What can I do? And he answers me, well, why don't you start teaching? Teach all the things that you think is very important to learn. You know, at that moment, I think that maybe it was a mistake in my English, because, you know, it's not my native tongue. So I said, maybe it's a mistake. He said, no. I want to learn, not to teach, to learn. But he answers back, the best way to learn is teaching. So start teaching. So I said, well, could you help me? Could you help me to at least to prepare the main program? And he said yes. So we start more or less collaboration, because it was by email, and through the next couple of years, we exchanged maybe 10 mails where I sent him, what about if we include these topics? And he answers, no, I think it's better that you put this other topic. Maybe you need to read these books. And I do everything, of course. And 2 years later, in the year 2002, I think he was worried about me or something like that, because he said, go ahead, start your program. So I start the program in the 2002. And since then, in the CIREX, we start to try to learn from different perspectives around the world, from different perspectives about existential therapy, because we learned that there are very different perspectives in existential therapy. So we have some influences, and I would like to mention some of the most important of them. Of course, in the first stage was Irving Yalom, Rollo May, Ronald Lang, and Thomas Szasz, because we found that some of Thomas Szasz's writings were very interesting for us. After that, we start the internalization in more personally. So we found that in Argentina, there's another crazy people like us trying to learn more about existential therapy. So we found Pablo Rispo and Susana Signorelli, and we invite them to come to share with us. And also Emilio Romero, Ana Maria López Calvo, and Miriam Moreira from Brazil. And also Alberto de Castro from Colombia. And after that, we also find that there's other people in the other side of the world. So we have content, like we invite Emmy Van Dursen and Digby Tantam to come with us and teach us some of their knowledge and their wisdom. And also Simon Dublock, Greg Madison, Ernesto Spinelli, Todd Dubose, Karen Wakesell-Dixon, Eric Craig, and Kevin Aho. And soon we're going to have also Adam McLean and Alison Strasser teaching for us, because we really want to learn from different perspectives in order to build our own perspective, our own way of understanding existential therapy. So we found ourselves more close to the line that is called existential phenomenological therapy. And the main difference in our approach is not that we are saying a lot of new things. It's more the way that we are saying the same things, because we're trying to say it in a very vivid way, with charged with livedness, with very alive. We try to explain the same concepts, but in a more bodily manner, in a more easy way to understand, because sometimes the students says that this sounds very like high, elevated, like something far away from our everyday lives. So we try to talk about existential phenomenological perspective in a more daily basis, in a more common way of understanding. So we said that we have three main aspects. The first one is that we try to focus into a more philosophical way of understanding existential therapy. What we mean about that is that we are trying to become not medical, not clinical, not reparative or corrective, not educational process of therapy, more exploratory process of therapy. This is the first line, more exploratory, not clinical, not fixing, nor repairing. The second one is phenomenological and hermeneutical. And for us, that means mainly that we try to develop an approach that it's not moral. That means without an ideal to pursue. And that not about punishing who doesn't fit this ideal. We try to become more descriptive, valuing the unknowing, and with emphasis on experience. And the third aspect is we put a lot of emphasis on relatedness. For us, relatedness is maybe one of the, or maybe the main aspect of our approach, that we try to don't forget that we emerge always for this big net, big web of relationships with the world, with others, and also with ourselves. So our training lasts now for 3 years. The first year is mainly about philosophy and phenomenology, just philosophy and phenomenology, in order to understand the worldview of existential phenomenological therapy. And then 2 more years focusing specifically in existential therapy, existential phenomenological therapy. And now we have, since more or less 12 years ago, for the Ministry of Education in Mexico, we offer a master's degree, an academic degree, a master's degree in existential phenomenological therapy and analysis. And so for us it's very important, first, not just transmitting ideas, but creating new ways of approaching and embody them. This is what is very important for us. And also to build international connections, to be more aware of this beautiful big field that is existential therapy in the world, without erasing our differences. You know, because sometimes what I and others in Mexico notice is that it's very common that we try to underline the similarities. And of course, we have a lot of similarities, and that's great. But for us, it's also great, and maybe even greater, our differences. Because the world is made of differences. And it's beautiful when we can have difference in the same table, talking as friends, knowing how it's for you, and let me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about how it's for me. So thank you, Gianfranco, for this table, because we are doing exactly that. So thank you. And you know, during these connections, in a month, we're going to have an event in London with Barbara Godoy in a place called Therapy Harley Street, and Ernesto Spinelli is going to be there, and we're going to talk. We're going to be talking about the art of therapy, the art of existential therapy, and talking about how can we understand therapy and relatedness from an art perspective also. No, all of you are invited. And before I end it, I want to invite also a student from the Existential Circle in Mexico, because she's here we came here with 10 of us. So I invite her to say just a few words to you from one of the students. So her name is Lily. So Lily, come here.
Gracias, Jackie. ¿Tú me traduces? Okay. He's going to traduce me. Okay.
I'm going to translate her,
Yes.
at least to try.
Yes. Voy a hablar en español. Bueno, después de escuchar un poco de lo que comenta Jackie, mi experiencia en la escuela, estoy en el 3er grado de la maestría de formación que platica Jackie. Sí. Sí.
Yes,
está
but
bien.
what about the people who doesn't have headphones?
Es que se escucha doble. Okay.
Okay,
It's okay. It's okay.
do it.
Ok. Bueno, mi experiencia un poco en la escuela, primero que nada, es la posibilidad de ver congruencia. Vengo de otros lugares en donde es difícil de pronto escuchar que lo que se dice se vive en las personas que están ahí. Esa es la primera cosa que a mí me ha seducido de la escuela y por lo que estoy ahí también. Y después 2 cosas que me parecen importantes de lo que me ha cambiado a mí la vida, de lo que he aprendido ahí. La primera es la posibilidad y la riqueza que veo en la distinción explicar y describir. Cuando yo explico algo, me es como muy fácil salirme de la escena, quitar responsabilidades, y cuando describo, me vivo ahí, implicado en lo que estoy contando desde lo que a mí me pasó a través de mis sentidos. Y eso para mí es algo que cambió mi perspectiva, tanto para mí como para lo que hago con mis clientes. Y la segunda cosa, hay muchas otras, pero la segunda cosa y de la cual hablaba Jackie es esta importancia que le damos a la relación, a la relacionalidad. El darme cuenta que estoy con otro y que lo que sucede ahí es algo que nos sucede. Y hay 2 ejemplos que me volaron la cabeza. Es como cuando decimos, no, tú eres violento. No, nuestra relación es violenta en este momento. O tú fuiste infiel. No, nuestra relación ha sido infiel. Y cuando tomamos esa perspectiva, nos implicamos en la responsabilidad y considero que eso sí puede cambiar el mundo. Y a mí eso es lo que me ha hecho seguir ahí. Entonces, bueno, les agradezco a quienes pudieron entenderme, a quienes pudieron escucharme. Gracias.
Gracias, Lily. So just to finish, if any one of you are interested in know more about the perspective on the Syriacs, I have with me, if you wanted, a few books about the way we explain things in Mexico. It's called Existential Therapy. It's in English, and it's also in Ukrainian. So thank you for that. So you can have it also another possibility to know a little bit more about the perspective in Mexico. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jackie. I invited again you to take earphone because our school, the FURF, will be in Italian, okay, for this. Now I invited the Vorulus Academy, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianfranco. So it is called Welsh Academy. It can be translated into English as Existential Academy of Turkey. I think we are one of the youngest schools of existential therapy at the moment. We were established back in 2012, which makes us a school of 13 years. We're about to start our adolescent years, I would say, and let's see what kind of craziness will come out of that adolescent years. I resonated quite a lot with Jackie's story in terms of my story, and the story of the school is also very personal, I could say. I was, by the way, my name is Jackie Kos, and I was trained in quite a classical psychoanalytic setting, as a clinical psychologist, and I quite enjoyed it for a while. But at the same time, I found it very oppressive from time to time, especially how it becomes quite restrictive in the sense that we were supposed to relate with our clients in terms of our area of freedom when it comes to therapeutic actions. And I started to search for something that would be more liberating, at least for me as a clinical psychologist. And interestingly enough, one of my psychoanalytic teachers mentioned Viktor Frankl to me, and I had no idea about him before that. And that's how I got to read Men's Search for Meaning. And I got really, really impressed and inspired by it. I'm sure, I mean, it's quite impossible not to be inspired by it. So I got my first existential training in Dallas, Texas, with the Logotherapy Institute there. But again, I was kind of looking for something, more philosophical, where I can have a better idea of how to translate different philosophical ideas into therapeutic action, into the consulting room. And my path crossed with Amy in Sydney. I think it was more than 15, 16 years ago. And that's how I became a part of NSBC as a doctoral student. As Yaki mentioned, I think I agree with Yalom. Even though I had no contact with him, I kind of learned how to be an existential therapist through teaching it, I would say. When I started out 13 years ago, it was a one-man show, and it was really not ambitious in the sense that it was just a table in my private practice. I had only capacity for 7 students, and that was it. And we started as this additional course, so to say, for clinical psychologists who would like to have some ideas about how to work existentially, but not to train existential therapists. So it was a really modest program to start with. But afterwards, things just grew very organically, I can say. I met Katerina, Evgenia in Greece, and I got a lot of support from them when it came to developing our curriculum. Of course, I got a lot of support from Amy and Digby and from NSBC in terms of turning this small program into a big, proper, full training. And as things stand at the moment, we are a team of 14 trainers, teachers, 21 supervisors. Our training program consists of 2 different levels. One level is the foundation level, which is for 2 years, in which the students, our trainees, are learning about the basics of existential philosophy and, of course, existential psychotherapy. And they can prefer to end their training with us there. It's not automatically, there's no direct enrollment into the next level. So to say, they need to reapply for the next level if they would like to go ahead and become fully trained existential psychotherapists. So after 2 years, those who are interested in taking the full training, they can enroll in the formation in existential therapy, we call it that way, which is a 4+ years of a program in which we have weekly seminars, individual supervision, group supervision, pretty much everything that you might find in any good program. We have designed our program in line with the standards of EAP. That's how we got accredited by FETE as well a few years ago as one of the training institutes in Europe. The strength of our program, I would say, is we really emphasize the importance of philosophy as a separate subject. In the foundation course, which is the 2-year program, a quarter of the program, we have a philosopher trainer on board who teaches our students philosophy from the perspective of philosophy. Of course, it's not really disconnected from daily life, but it's aimed at giving this taste of philosophical discipline to our students. And the second part is we are quite adamant about making sure that all the philosophical ideas, all these very inspirational sentences can be translated into some therapeutic action, and that can make a difference in our clients' lives. So we really emphasize the translation between this therapeutic translation between philosophy and existential therapy, or therapy in general. And I forgot to mention one thing, between foundation program and the formation, the advanced studies, we are offering our students an internship program where our students can acquire up to 300 of client hours within a year under intense supervision. This is optional for those who would like to continue with the advanced studies, yet they have no idea about, they haven't been in the consulting room before. So this is more or less us. Again, I think we're the youngest program. We're still we're still a work in progress, I would say. I would like to leave the word to our students. Indeed, we have 3 of them here. One from the foundation course, Bige, please stand up. One from the internship program, Ebru, please stand up. And one from the formation, Funda, please stand up. So if you'd like to add something, a few words in terms of what makes it, interesting for you, this program, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, it's quite. Also, so what can I add?
I can start. I can start how my journey all started. It all started that I met with Jacques Iccios. I read his books, and it was the moment that I knew I want to know everything about existentialism. I want to know more. And then I enrolled to the foundation, the training, and it was enriching 2 years for me. I was also doing my clinical master's. And then I said, I'm not going anywhere. I want to stay in this circle. I want to continue. And I started my internship. And now it even more enriched my journey as a therapist. And now he was first my favorite author, and now my professor and my supervisor. And now I am with these supervisions and seeing clients. I'm very excited what's expecting for me. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, I'm Bige, and I'm currently finishing the first year of the foundational program. And after finding myself alone with the client in the room, I realized that it's exciting but also very hard. So I wanted to be in a community. And I was already fascinated by existential ideas. And I found that luckily we have something in Turkish and I can reach it online. And foundational education is currently giving me the needed frame to understand existential ideas, and also a frame to make my way around what to read and what to understand. So I am still a young student, I may say so, but I'm looking forward to continue and deepen my practice and my philosophical and existential and psychological understanding.
Yeah, I'm also proud of being a member of this community. So I also found some additional things to add. Maybe I can say that we have also a studio and other seminars, workshops that we are running in Istanbul now and also in other cities now. So it's growing up also other parts in Turkey, both in a theoretical way and also a technical away. So I'm happy that I find somewhere also that I feel held, embraced, and contained. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Grazie. La scuola di Istanbul, esatto? Istanbul, ok. Ora siamo noi che, come dire, abbiamo avuto l'ingrato ruolo di ospiti, spero che vi abbiamo ospitato adeguatamente. Non è una cosa facile ospitare a Roma con la purtroppo dipartita di un papa e un nuovo papa, che si fa, quindi con tutte le difficoltà che abbiamo avuto. Perché Roma è già una città difficilissima, poi quando muore un papa Roma diventa impossibile. Vabbè, ma comunque ce la stiamo cavando, credo, insomma. E vi devo dire poche cose che sono di carattere giuridico ma che sono importanti, perché proprio dal confronto costante con voi la differenza sostanziale che c'è con la psicoterapia in Italia è quella legislativa, in quanto la psicoterapia in Italia è una professione riconosciuta e deve essere certificata dallo Stato. La legge Ossicini, che risale al 1989, chiedo scusa, ho avuto il piacere e l'onore di chiacchierare in un paio di congressi con l'estensore della legge Ossicini. È una legge che appunto ha definito sia la figura dello psicologo sia la figura dello psicoterapeuta. Come vi dicevo prima, per essere psicoterapeuta, per accedere ad una scuola riconosciuta dallo Stato, attenzione, riconosciuta dallo Stato, di psicoterapia, bisogna essere laureati in medicina o in psicologia e entro il primo anno della scuola bisogna essere anche abilitati all'esercizio della professione di medico o di psicologo. Sono tutte tappe legali che sono complicate in Italia, c'è molta burocrazia. Tant'è che nella nostra scuola, che è partita, ha avuto l'autorizzazione dal Ministero dopo 3-4 anni di richieste, non è stata una cosa facile, l'ha avuta nel 2019, pochi mesi prima che partisse, che purtroppo ci fosse l'epidemia di Covid, e che ci ha rallentato. Noi abbiamo potuto cominciare i nostri corsi solamente nel 2022. Pertanto, come scuola di psicoterapia riconosciuta dallo Stato, noi siamo molto giovani. Però, come voi leggete nella dizione, noi siamo scuola di psicoterapia non esistenziale dell'Istituto di Scienze Umane ed Esistenziali. L'Istituto di Scienze Umane ed Esistenziali, come ci ricordava ieri Brancaleone, quando mi ha fatto un panegirico, mi ha lasciato di stucco, quando ci ricordava, è nato a febbraio del 1988, quindi in questo momento siamo quasi ai 40 anni di storia. Questo istituto, che è un istituto culturale, è comunque stato collaboratore di scuole di psicoterapia riconosciute precedentemente, come il CISPAT, e quindi noi da tanto tempo siamo dei formatori, Brancaleone, Boscaino ed io, eccetera. Quello che però mi premeva raccontare in questa tavola rotonda, e quindi ci prendiamo questi pochi minuti per sottolineare alcuni aspetti, non è tanto l'aspetto burocratico, che come capite in Italia è complicato, perché ogni volta bisogna fare un passaggio successivo di carte, di certificazione e di altro. E infatti ve l'ha un po' parlato ieri l'avvocato Razza, quando vi ha detto che appunto nel Ministero ci sono molte difficoltà per questo. Ma quello di cui vi voglio parlare è quali sono, secondo noi, le caratteristiche che man mano stiamo anche scoprendo debbano essere implementate. Vorrei dirvene solo poche, come idee molto veloci. Come vi ho detto nell'introduzione, la prima, più importante caratteristica è l'attitudine mentale. Un'attitudine mentale che è diversa da qualsiasi altra forma di psicoterapia. ed è però iperinclusiva perché potrebbe essere assunta da qualsiasi altro psicoterapeuta, potrebbe essere assunta da qualsiasi psichiatra medico, potrebbe essere assunta da qualsiasi psicologo clinico e anche da altri professionisti di aiuto. Questa attitudine mentale è quella della non invasione, cioè non invadere l'altro, cioè non pregiudicare l'epoché. Il concetto di epoché per noi è fondamentale ed è alla base del nostro lavoro. Per poter acquisire questo concetto di epoché, il lavoro è complicato, la formazione è complicata, i nostri studenti lavorano tanto e apprendono, grazie soprattutto a quel lavoro molto fine, molto particolare che ha fatto Ferdinando Brancaleone, apprendono l'utilizzo specifico di metodiche di comunicazione come la logoanalisi coscienziale e la logodinamica subliminale. Grazie a queste metodiche comunicative, e qualcosa l'ho accennato io in un capitolo del libro di cui ci parlerà dopo Yaki, grazie a queste metodiche viene favorita l'epoché, viene favorito questo atteggiamento mentale. Il secondo punto è quello che dicevo prima e che sottolineo, è il concetto di integrazione. Vale a dire, noi non lavoriamo solo quanto psicoterapeuti chiusi nel nostro studio, ma siamo parte di una operatività in cui vi sono altre professionalità. Dobbiamo formarci sul capire che cosa fanno gli altri professionisti, quali sono i loro compiti, quali sono i loro eventuali risultati e dobbiamo in questo modo poter interagire con gli altri professionisti per poter portare al recovery, alla guarigione, la persona che è ammalata. Fra queste due caratteristiche, ripeto, richiamo un po' quei concetti che vi ho detto velocemente ieri nella mia introduzione, il punto fondamentale è la realizzazione del dialogo fenomenologico. Questo dialogo fenomenologico che può sembrare, come dire, quasi ovvio, bisogna dialogare, una cosa è il dialogo. Ernesto Spinelli ci ricordava il famoso dialogo sussuriano, per cui se io parto con la mia idea e l'altro ha la sua idea, non è un dialogo, ma lui diceva è un duologo, cioè è qualcosa che non si incontra. È un dibattito televisivo dei politici, né più né meno. Il dialogo invece è qualcosa per cui quando io dico la mia prima frase, non so cosa dirò nella seconda frase, perché dipenderà da ciò che mi risponderà la persona che sta dialogando con me. Per cui io so da dove parto, ma non so mai dove arrivo. E questo è un'attitudine mentale fondamentale nel nostro lavoro. In questo modo noi possiamo arrivare a quel dialogo fenomenologico che diventa proprio una cosa altra da me, dal paziente, dal cliente, dal gruppo, diventa qualcosa, una sorta di altra persona completamente diversa in cui si sviluppa sia lo stimolo sia il ricondizionamento autonomo. Lo può essere appunto, non ce n'è un ossimoro, perché è una persona altra che fa al suo interno tutte e due le operazioni. La grande l'utilità e che io penso che sia veramente importante implementare in futuro della psicoterapia esistenziale è che, a differenza di quello che molti di noi abbiamo più volte raccontato, e l'ho raccontato io, l'ho raccontato Brancaleone, l'ha raccontato Iachide, l'ha raccontato Ernesto, la psicoterapia esistenziale non ha degli strumenti specifici. Noi invece diciamo il fatto che non abbia degli strumenti specifici non vuol dire che non possa utilizzare gli strumenti. E a differenza di altre psicoterapie, la psicoterapia esistenziale può utilizzare tutti gli strumenti delle altre psicoterapie, anche quelli cognitivo-comportamentali famosissimi. Questo significa che noi possiamo adattarci più facilmente delle altre psicoterapie a altri modelli di intervento. Ecco perché sottolineavo ieri il fatto che per me la terapia esistenziale è una metapsicoterapia. Ma tutto questo, che sono riflessioni di chi lo fa purtroppo questo da tanti anni, perché siamo vecchi, non per altro, tutto questo purtroppo noi lo dobbiamo trasferire ai nostri studenti. Ed è un'operazione complessa, difficile, in cui credo che la cosa più importante sia anche creare un certo tipo appunto di rapport, un dialogo fenomenologico anche con i nostri studenti. E questo è il nostro tentativo e che penso che sia il tentativo più importante che noi dobbiamo fare per il futuro. Ma lascio la parola al professore Brancaleone, Ferdinando Brancaleone, che è il fondatore del nostro modello esistenziale. Ovviamente non è un fondatore ex novo, non è uscito ex abrupto, anche se lui è abbastanza alto, quindi potrebbe però è diciamo, il sostrato filosofico di cui hanno parlato i colleghi che ci hanno preceduto, c'è tutto, e ancora si può dire che ha la stessa complessità che citava Iachi. Ovviamente alcuni autori sono specifici dei paesi, dei paesi in cui noi ci siamo sviluppati, però credo che siamo tutti quanti fortemente radicati in un pensiero che si evolve, che continua ad evolversi. Io vi dico solo quest'ultima cosa. Quando ho cominciato ad interessarmi di filosofia, l'aggettivo esistenzialista era quasi negativo. Cioè l'esistenzialista era quello che un po' tutto vestito di nero, che si metteva un po' da parte, che prima o poi si sarebbe suicidato e così. Oggi noi, grazie ad una riflessione sul pensiero esistenzialista, sappiamo che il pensiero esistenzialista addirittura è qualcosa che si propone un miglioramento della vita, probabilmente un pensiero molto più positivo di tanti altri pensieri filosofici. Lascio la parola a Brancaleone, prego. No, c'è il microfono, ti portano il microfono.
Sì, se mi dai un paio d'ore, insomma, io... No, molto velocemente. La nostra origine storica è Viktor Frankl. L'abbiamo conosciuto direttamente. Viktor Frankl in Italia dagli anni 70 del secolo scorso, fine anni 70, assunse la carica di presidente onorario della sezione di logoterapia del CISPAT di Padova. Il CISPAT è una scuola di psicoterapia, prima della legge Ossicini che ha codificato la professione di psicologo, prima non c'era. Frankl è stato spesso nostro ospite, ha tenuto anche dei corsi a Padova e nella sede estiva di Sarnonico sulle Dolomiti. È un gruppo di cultori della psicoterapia ritenne di poter far evolvere anche in Italia questo approccio che praticamente non era conosciuto. Prevaleva la psicanalisi, prevaleva la terapia comportamentale, non ancora la cognitiva, più la comportamentale e quella familiare. Praticamente, quasi totalmente, la psicoterapia ad orientamento esistenziale, o se vogliamo, umanistico sì, ma esistenziale no, era quasi sconosciuta. Un gruppo di giovani e anche meno giovani, cultori di questo aspetto che, ripeto, era originato dal pensiero e dalla prassi di Frankl, si propose, oltre che di divulgare in Italia questo tipo di orientamento, anche di lavorarci su, cioè di valutare se era possibile e fino a che punto, come già diceva Frankl, strutturare un certo tipo di orientamento che ha come base, origine, fondamento, radice la logoterapia, ma che potesse avere anche un'evoluzione. Frankl già diceva, come molti di voi sanno, che egli si poneva come un nano sulle spalle di un gigante, che è Freud, che è Adler, suo maestro. Cioè anche un nano sulle spalle di un gigante può vedere un po' oltre. Cioè è una metafora per dire che basandosi su una radice ci si può evolvere, ci si deve evolvere. E Frank ci supportava all'epoca. Ci diede l'avallo, essendo lui il presidente onorario della sezione di logoterapia italiana, di fare questo tipo di lavoro, insieme in Italia ad Eugenio Fizzotti, che è l'altro che non c'è più adesso, ma che ci dava una mano, è stato un allievo diretto di Frankl, è vissuto a Vienna insieme a Frankl, va bene. E quindi, sulla base, sulla radice di Frankl, e attraverso l'esperienza di ognuno di noi, si sono poste delle ipotesi di evoluzione su una radice. In particolare questa evoluzione prendeva come focus la comunicazione. È facile dire la vita ha bisogno di un senso. È facile dire diamo un senso alla vita. È facile dire se uno ha degli scopi si può autotrascendere e quindi trovare un significato. Certo, è vero, è valido. Ma spesso il paziente o l'utente, il consultante, ha bisogno di comprendere, prendere con sé non solo la nozione, ma anche il modo con cui eventualmente può stimolare la sua capacità noetica, come dice Frankl, affinché possa avvenire concretamente nella sua individualità questa spinta. In altri termini, tu che mi sei di fronte, se io sono un paziente, un utente, non solo dimmi, ma mostrami, fammi percepire non solo con la ragione, con le parole, ma col tuo essere. Che cosa è possibile fare perché la vita, come direbbe Yalom, è contraddistinta da solitudine, è contraddistinta da il senso e la percezione della morte. Noi ci cogliamo in quanto esseri noetici, dotati di nous, soggetti alla finitudine. È un trauma iniziale per ogni bambino a livello noetico, la percezione della finitudine. La finitudine di un animale, il cagnolino, o la finitudine del nonno che muore, e quindi la capacità noetica viene colta da questa aura di disorientamento. Siamo singoli, siamo soggetti alla finitudine, siamo soggetti alla libertà, soggetti sì, perché la libertà poi è scelta. E come ci diceva Kierkegaard, scegliere vuol dire prendersi la responsabilità di quello che hai scelto. E non puoi non scegliere, perché anche se scegli di non scegliere a livello noetico stai scegliendo. E quindi la scelta libera comporta una difficoltà. E poi il bisogno di senso. L'uomo è l'essere che ha bisogno sempre di un senso ulteriore, che va oltre, si autotrascende. Per sua natura il nous non è qualcosa che ti permette di dire sono appagato. Il principio del piacere. No, il Nus dice quando sei appagato hai bisogno di andare oltre. E in Jaspers l'orizzonte. L'uomo a livello noetico è colui che tende ad andare sempre oltre. È un orizzonte. Ha questo bisogno di andare oltre, orizzonte, e quindi è soggetto allo scacco. Scacco cosa vuol dire? L'orizzonte non lo raggiungerò mai. Man mano che mi avvicino, l'orizzonte si sposta. E quindi sembra come, per quello che riguardava la libertà, qualcosa di positivo, sono libero, ma è sempre una scelta rischiosa. Così l'orizzonte si allontana man mano che tu cerchi di raggiungerlo, però, direbbe Frankl, se ti giri vedi il percorso che hai fatto e l'esperienza che hai fatto che non avresti mai fatto se non avessi perseguito l'andare verso l'orizzonte. Quindi c'è il positivo, il negativo. La morte ti permette di essere più responsabile, ma è la morte finitudine. La singolarità, la solitudine ti comporta un Eigenwelt Eigenwelt vuol dire un mondo dell'interiorità, direbbe Biswanger, che ti dice tu sei unico, irripetibile in quanto Ferdinando Brancaleone. Sì, sei figlio di, ma sei unico, irripetibile, nessuno è uguale a te. Singolarità, ma singolarità vuol dire anche solitudine, perché nessuno può entrare dentro a quello che io provo, sento. Io devo usare parole affinché l'altro possa interpretare. Non può sentire ciò che io sento, può sentire ciò che io dico. Domani svilupperò questo argomento specificamente. Per adesso fermiamoci alle parole. Noi ci esprimiamo, come adesso io sto parlando a voi. Ci esprimiamo, sono parole, e ognuno di noi interpreta, codifica e comprende, ma non comprende me, comprende quello che lei, la persona, ha inteso. Nella mia interiorità, ciò che io sto provando dentro di me, nessuno mai lo potrà provare. Ma posso in qualche modo usare, come cerco di fare in questo momento, con tutti i limiti, perché siamo limitati, adoperare un linguaggio sufficientemente, mi auguro, comprensibile affinché a livello prima di parole formali, ma oltre le parole formali anche ciò che io in questo momento sono dentro, in questo istante unico e irripetibile della mia vita. Cioè, domani lo svilupperò, il fatto che io sia in un certo modo dentro di me permette alle mie parole, e questo ce lo dice anche la scienza attuale, contemporanea, di avere una, virgolette, potenziale vibrazione che può far vibrare l'altro al di là della interpretazione letterale delle parole. Per cui, per adesso sintetizzo, ci ponemmo il problema come eventualmente elaborare gradualmente, sulla scorta delle esperienze comuni, una modalità progressiva, comunicativa che permettesse una migliore prima risonanza di comprensione per quella parte più, diciamo, formale della comunicazione. Il linguaggio in quanto opera di un modello simbolico, perché il linguaggio sono simboli. E quindi nacque gradualmente la logoanalisi e la logodinamica, cioè delle metodiche potenziali e anche evolutive che permettessero gradualmente di adoperare il linguaggio in maniera tale, come avrebbe detto Cartesio, di essere sufficientemente chiaro e distinto. Il primo comando del discorso del metodo: procedere per idee sufficientemente chiare e distinte. Ma ciò non basta. C'è un altro livello, il livello di come sono mentre parlo, chi sono mentre parlo, come mi vivo mentre comunico. E questo il come mi vivo vuol dire il lavoro su me stesso. Per cui nell'iter di formazione ci siamo resi conto, e per adesso concludo perché altrimenti si fa tardi,
Sì.
ci siamo resi conto che il lavoro fondamentale per lo psicoterapeuta è sì lavorare sulla parte formale del come comunicare e perfezionarsi prima nel dialogo anche con se stessi, perché noi prima di dialogare con gli altri abbiamo un dialogo interno, quindi lo possiamo fare anche con noi stessi, ma poi un forte tipo diciamo senso di accentuazione del lavoro con se stessi, del lavoro di me con me stesso, prima del mit sein, dell'essere con l'altro, che è fondamentale in terapia, e l'eigen sein, il mio mondo interno che deve essere progressivamente fatto evolvere il più possibile. Fare questo vuol dire formarsi, perché al di là della competenza anche comunicativa, la formazione interna, la formazione personale, prima con l'aiuto e poi ognuno con se stesso, permetterà a parità di linguaggio e di anche progressiva esperienza comunicativa di poter far sintonizzare, vibrare l'altro su un altro livello. Ripeto, di questo poi parlerò, per chi vorrà sentire meglio domani, a che cosa noi siamo giunti anche sulla scorta dello studio di molte molte acquisizioni della scienza contemporanea. Per adesso mi fermo perché...
Grazie Brancaleone. Anche noi ci rubiamo qualche altro minuto per avere delle testimonianze e quindi chiedo a Merve Cire un'altra volta di intervenire, che è del primo anno di formazione, ha un ruolo un po' particolare che lei ci dirà. In English, obviously.
Personally, I had a chance to be trained in two different existential psychotherapy schools in Europe, Varoluşçu Akademi and Scuola di Psicoterapia Neoesistenziale. In Istanbul, I've gained my very first understanding of existential philosophy, and now in Naples, I'm deepening my clinical practice. And these experiences gave me, how to say, in this way, I had a chance to integrate all these learnings into one path. And these experiences for me have completed each other as a pieces of puzzles. But there is one more thing about Scuola Psicoterapia Neoesistenziale, and this makes my experience a little bit slightly different from the others, is that I am the youngest student in my group, and I am the only one who is not a native Italian speaker. And this makes me understood how crucial a supportive and inclusive environment is to a real learning to happen. I feel very supported, very connected. That's why I can finish my words by saying that for me, an existential psychotherapy school is not only meant to teach us theories and practice, but also to offer a space in which we can feel ourselves truly safe to question and to be who we exactly are. So thank you.
Grazie a Merve, affettuosissime le parole. Lasciamo adesso la parola a Silvana Figlioli e Luisana Rendina, che sono invece, no, direi una parola, sono delle old della nostra, sono quasi alla fine del percorso.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Buongiorno a tutti, sono la dottoressa Luisana Rendina.
Silvana Figlioli. Allora, nel corso della nostra formazione in psicoterapia d'orientamento esistenziale, sotto la guida del professor Buffardi e del professor Brancaleone, abbiamo intrapreso e percorso non solo un percorso accademico e professionale, ma un percorso profondamente umano e trasformativo. Tengo a testimoniare ciò che ad oggi ha rappresentato per noi questo cammino, le riflessioni che ha suscitato e i cambiamenti interiori che ha proposto e ha promosso in ognuno di noi. L'approccio esistenziale ci ha posto sin da subito di fronte ad una sfida radicale, quella di considerare il paziente non come portatore di sintomo da correggere, ma come un essere umano in cammino, attraversato da domande, contraddizioni, ambivalenze e possibilità. Questo ha trasformato anche il nostro modo di essere terapeuta in formazione, chiamandoci ad una costante riflessione su chi siamo, su come stiamo nella relazione e sul senso che attribuiamo al nostro ruolo. Abbiamo avuto la possibilità di confrontarci con una modalità di lavoro che pone al centro l'autenticità, la presenza reale del terapeuta, la sospensione del giudizio, epoché, e la disponibilità a stare nell'incertezza. In particolare abbiamo imparato a considerare il non sapere non come una mancanza, ma come una condizione necessaria per entrare davvero in contatto con l'altro. Questo ha rivoluzionato le nostre molte certezze teoriche, a sospendere ogni automatismo interpretativo e a metterci all'ascolto del paziente come una persona unica, irripetibile, portatrice di un proprio modo di stare al mondo. Grazie per l'attenzione.
Grazie a tutti.
Grazie a Silvana e Luisana. Adesso per completare questa parte, noi adesso cominceremo una tavola rotonda per cui abbiamo invitato altri formatori importanti di altre scuole a partecipare in questa tavola rotonda. Lasceremo quindi qualche minuto per ciascuno di loro per fare la presentazione di quello che è la loro idea e poi vi chiedo veramente di partecipare a un dialogo tutti insieme. Ricordo che anche in questo caso, oltre il mio italiano, che è preferibile al mio pessimo inglese, l'inglese, c'è anche la lingua spagnola della professoressa Signorelli, quindi utilizzate le earphone. Grazie. Chiamo prima Jason Upton, come l'ordine che era previsto. Jason, prego. Here. Want the microfono? Nando, ce l'hai tu il microfono? No? Ah, ce l'ha lei.
Thank you, Gianfranco. Yeah, I'm just going to give a little bit of a flavor of the course so that people can have a sense of it. Sorry? Yeah. Can you hear? Yeah. Yes? Okay, very good. So it exists within a 4-year training. But that 4-year training actually has 2 pathways. Only one is existential and one is integrative. So all the students start together. And the first 2 years, I would describe it as exposure to different modalities. So they do psychoanalysis and psychodynamic. They do an existential module. They do a humanistic and more an integrative module. And that happens throughout the first year and the second year. The reason for that is at the end of the second year, the students make a choice. They decide if they want to go down the pathway of becoming an integrative therapist or if they want to focus specifically on existential therapy. So the idea of a choice is something that's really quite unique to Regents. It's very useful because not a lot of students particularly know. I mean, some students come and they know they want to train in existential therapy, but some are not sure. So it gives them this sense of, being able to explore, being able to see how they want to progress. So, in terms of the existential training itself, it is really grounded in philosophy. Our students read a lot more philosophy than they read anything else, and we really encourage that direct engagement with philosophy. It's not that they don't read existential therapists or secondary literature, they do that as well, but our main focus is to really cover as much as we can the breadth of existential philosophy, appreciating that it's a very broad tradition. It's not just one thing. I mean, Yaki before said there's a lot of differences. There's so much I'm sure everyone here knows this. There's so much difference in existential philosophy, and we really, really want to bring that out. So that a lot of the purpose behind that is so that the students develop their own philosophical comportment, a real sensitivity to it, so that they appreciate that when you read philosophy, it's not like reading a textbook. You don't just take a concept or an idea and you apply it. You have to engage with it, you know, and you have to sit with it, and you have to take it into your being, and so forth. That engagement with the philosophical text for us is almost like a mirror to the therapeutic relationship. It's what you bring into the therapeutic relationship. So we really, really encourage the students to find that philosophical engagement. Which then leads to something that's quite important for us, is becoming one's own existential therapist. Yeah. Whilst we look at different models of existential therapy, we do not say, this is what existential therapy is, this is how you have to practice. Rather, what we want the students to do is to find themselves within the philosophical tradition, yeah, to locate themselves. I often say to the students, you know, by the end of the training, I really hope that you can see that you are a part of this tradition. It's a very rich tradition that has been going on for a long time. Can you see yourself as part of it? And then in the 4th year, we ask them to state their existential alignment. It's an assignment that we have, a presentation. What are the philosophers that influence them? And how does that form the basis of their practice? And so forth. Another aspect of the training that has developed over the years is a more experiential component. When I trained quite a while ago, you know, it was lovely. A lot of discussion of philosophy sitting around. But we had one module on embodiment. And when I came onto the teaching in 2007, I was teaching the embodiment module. And I said to the course leader, Luci, at the time, all we ever do is talk. And it's an embodiment module. Can't we move, please? And she said, yes, 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 go on and move. So we introduced experiential exercises. And that could be movement, it could be something creative. But the whole idea was, you know, whilst it's wonderful to reflect upon the philosophy, what are the ways of bringing it down more and more into the body? So this has now become a component of the training day, so that students can have experiences that push them into uncomfortable places and so forth, so that the philosophy is integrated. And so I'll just say, I just want to say a little bit about the kind of revalidation that we've been doing. It's been so wonderful to hear from students. I don't have kind of student testimonies, but what we did was, as a part of revalidating, which means every 5 years, every university course in the UK needs to be approved. So we've been going through that process, and it's been an opportunity for us to pull back and to consider how is the training now. We've had an awful lot of feedback from students, and what are the ways in which we are going to develop it. And it's going to develop in quite some significant ways. Just pointing to, we ran 2 focus groups with alumni, and we wanted their feedback, and I thought I'd give a flavor of some of the things that they fed back. In terms of what they really appreciated the personal development through engaging with the philosophy, which was really lovely to hear, and so forth. In terms of areas in which they wanted the training to improve, one was more experiential learning and skills-based training, and this is really interesting. You know, it's a course that's on philosophical comportment towards therapy, and students are saying, can we learn trauma techniques? Can we engage with this, and can we experience this, and so forth? Is it possible to incorporate these? Is that better? Is that better? Hi, right, okay. Can we incorporate techniques from different modalities into our approach? I'm going to come back to that because I just want to say what came up in the focus groups. Diversity and inclusion was massive. Already with the philosophers we cover, there's lots of women philosophers, there's some non-white philosophers, but the students were saying this needs to go even further and further, and right from the very beginning of the training. They talked about placements. I mean, in the UK, students go off, they do their placement, they come back. And there's an awful lot that I could say about placements, but that would take a lot of time. They commented that there was different levels of competencies. Often students are finding that they're being given client presentations with issues that are well beyond what they're capable of. So first or second client being given with complex trauma histories and so forth. So they wanted us to attend to that. They wanted us to attend to career preparation, for the realities of professional life. And they talked about cost and accessibility, which I think we've already kind of looked at. So, just a few words on what we've done in terms of revalidation. We've pulled back and we've tried to consider this. And one of the things that we've talked about, and Gianfranco kind of mentioned it as well, is how do you balance the fact that this is a clinical training, and the trainees may need an awareness of what happens when I sit in the room with someone who's experiencing PTSD, or someone who's having a panic attack, or someone who's experiencing different clinical issues and so forth, versus developing a philosophical comportment that is about, how do I live, how does the client live, and so forth. So we've thought a lot about this. And we are, what we're going to do is in the second year, we're going to elevate, and this is very new for us, and bring clinical issues more into the foreground, but in a way in which we can consider them philosophically. And for me, I really take the lead from Merleau-Ponty here, because Merleau-Ponty engaged with everything, Gestalt, behaviorism, neuroscience, but he did so in a manner that questioned the philosophical underpinnings of these different disciplines. It wasn't to dismiss them, it wasn't to get rid of them, but it was to be able to incorporate some of their insights into his phenomenological approach to embodiment and so forth. So this is something that we are going to kind of move forward with the training of say, yes, we could look at not just clinical issues in this way, but also some techniques and some skills. Not because you're going to acquire a bag of skills and just use them like this, but because you're going to have reflected upon them and then considered what's the philosophical basis, and if I was to use a technique from a different modality, how does that become an expression of my existential stance? So my stance always remains phenomenological. It always remains existential and so forth. So this really is quite new for us. And another area, just to kind of comment on, I'll be quick, is ways to think about making the philosophy more accessible. Some of the students who choose the integrative pathway say, I so resonate very, very much with the existential pathway, but I can't read Heidegger, I can't read Kierkegaard, and so forth. Now, of course, that's an important part of the training, but for me, it's a pedagogical question. And the pedagogical question is, how do you make it accessible in the beginning so that the students can find their entry points into the philosophy and deepen their engagement over time like this. So this is something that we've thought about. And my last point, because it's really important and I want to touch upon it, is balancing the need for more equality and diversity and what is talked about an awful lot in the UK at the moment, which is decolonizing the curriculum. And there's a real tension in terms of that, because obviously we cannot get rid of the main philosophers. Why would we want to do that? What we want the students to appreciate is that there has been an unfolding of existential philosophy, and that has included female philosophers, it has included non-white philosophers, and there has been very, very rich dialogues that have taken place, and we want to bring those dialogues to the foreground. Lewis Gordon engages with Sartre in quite an extraordinary way. Sarah Ahmed, in her queer phenomenology, develops Husserl and Merleau-Ponty in really quite an extraordinary way. These voices are there, they participate and engage with existential phenomenology, but they need to be elevated a lot more. And that's what we intend to do with the training.
Argentina.
¿Me escuchan?
Ok.
Ah, ¿me puedo sacar esto ahora?
Yes. Sì. Senti solo te.
Bueno. Bueno, me voy a presentar cómo llegué yo al existencialismo. Yo estaba en la escuela secundaria, en cuarto año de la escuela secundaria. Tenía una profesora de literatura que, si bien seguía su programa como correspondía, se salía siempre de los márgenes establecidos y nos recomendaba libros para leer. Como a mí me encantaba esta profesora, lo que ella recomendaba extra escolar, yo lo leía. Y así me encontré con Erich Fromm en El arte de amar y en El miedo a la libertad. Esos dos libros a mí me abrieron la cabeza y dije, yo voy a estudiar psicología. Cuando entro a la facultad de psicología, claro, me bombardea el psicoanálisis. Mientras de cuarto año a quinto año y cuando ingreso a la facultad, libro que había de psicología yo compraba y leía. Así que leí mucho psicoanálisis también. Bueno, ya estando en la facultad, curso una materia que se llamaba Psicología Comprensiva. Y que fue en ese momento, en esos años, porque Argentina tuvo muchos años de dictadura y muchos años democracia, dictadura, alternativamente. Entonces se creó esta cátedra de Psicología Comprensiva que fue revolucionaria, porque enseñaban psicoanálisis en toda la carrera, todas las materias tenían que ver. Y acá, al aparecer Psicología Comprensiva, aparecieron grupitos de estudiantes que nos entusiasmó el existencialismo. Y acá tenemos a Isabel Pérez Jauregui, una de aquel grupo en el que formamos parte luego de esa cátedra. Y así conocí también a Pablo Rispo, quien era profesor. Y yo amé el existencialismo y amé a Pablo Rispo, el cual fue luego mi esposo. Y ahí comenzamos a trabajar. Él me invitó junto a otro grupo de jóvenes a trabajar, a ir al hospital, un hospital de la zona oeste del Gran Buenos Aires. Y ahí empezamos a hacer terapia de grupo en niños, en adolescentes. Yo todavía no estaba recibida, así que era siempre coayudante, estaba con alguien que sí era experto. A mí me faltaban todavía años de la carrera. Y empezamos a ver cómo podíamos hacer una terapia donde se vieran todos los conceptos existenciales que estábamos estudiando en la facultad de los distintos autores. Para esto, además, nos reuníamos fuera de la facultad, un grupo de alumnos, para profundizar existencialismo. Entonces uno se encargaba de Heidegger, otro de Jaspers, etc. Así que fue una época para mí maravillosa y era descubrir un mundo nuevo y cómo transmitir ese mundo hacia los demás. Así es que, bueno, empezamos a dar cursos, todavía sin ninguna conexión ni entre los argentinos, y mucho menos con Latinoamérica. Esto sucedió a partir de los años. Nosotros ya habíamos dado muchos cursos de formación de terapeutas, y nos aparece una vez en la Feria del Libro Efraín Martínez, un psicólogo colombiano, que nos dice, bueno, ustedes son existencialistas, qué bueno esto, los voy a presentar a otro colombiano para que los invite a un congreso. Y así fuimos a Colombia y ahí conocimos a Emilio Romero. Y luego, poco a poco, fuimos uniendo distintos países, hasta que también nos invita Jackie, como él mismo nombró. Y finalmente creamos ALPE, que es la Asociación Latinoamericana de Psicoterapia Existencial, hace ya 15 años. Este año vamos a festejar nuestros 15 años en el congreso que se va a hacer en Brasil en octubre. Y estamos recién comenzando a hacer los lineamientos de estos 7 países que formamos parte, los lineamientos mínimos que debe tener cada formación, porque hasta ahora cada país da la formación que quiere. No hay ninguna pauta específica. Pero bueno, estamos tratando de tener lineamientos comunes en estos 7 países. Eso es en general mi acercamiento al existencialismo. Luego tengo algunos comentarios sobre cómo enseñamos, porque yo diferencio entre enseñar terapia existencial y formar terapeutas existenciales. Porque enseñar terapia existencial en realidad es bastante sencillo. Uno elige la bibliografía de los autores que a uno más le interesan, hace un buen programa, que también en ALPE tenemos hecho un programa sobre distintos autores, y está enseñando las teorías de cada uno de ellos. Y eso es enseñar cómo es la terapia existencial, basada en la filosofía existencial. Pero formar terapeutas existenciales requiere mucho más que eso. Requiere estar comprometido con una forma de vivir. Es como decir, vivo existencialmente. Me comprometo con mi propia existencia. Y así es como, bueno, no sé si lo haré ahora o después, forma parte esto de la enseñanza en los alumnos, tanto sea en los que cursan en forma presencial o en los que cursan en forma online, porque tenemos estas dos características. Después de la pandemia nos quedamos sin alumnos, entonces era una forma de continuar formando a través de las pantallas, ¿no es cierto? Pero esto también nos permitió tener alumnos latinoamericanos y entonces podíamos hacer intercambio de distintos países, distintas visiones y fue muy enriquecedor. También estamos en universidades y bueno, ahí también tenemos que ajustarnos a determinados programas, horarios y condiciones que pone la universidad, pero también estamos enseñando existencialismo en las universidades. Como alumnos acá no hay, yo les traje, el año pasado se me ocurrió, de casualidad, hacerle una encuesta a los alumnos que terminaron ese año y entonces les traje los comentarios de ellos. ¿Los puedo leer? Perfecto. Solamente voy a leer dos preguntas del largo cuestionario que les hice a ellos. Una es qué le aportó el curso para tu formación como terapeuta existencial y otra es qué te aportó para la vida y para la profesión. En la primera, ¿qué te aportó el curso? Alumna 1 dice, me aportó la sensación de no estar sola, de poder encontrar un lugar donde compartir mi mirada humana más allá de lo terapéutico. Alumna 2, me aportó nuevos aprendizajes, nuevas maneras de escuchar, romper con estereotipos, nuevas lecturas y autores en profundidad. Motivación para buscar sobre terapia existencial y filosofía. Deseos de aplicarlo en el consultorio y en la cotidianidad. Me convoca y me atrae la mixtura entre lo filosófico y lo terapéutico. Alumna 3. Esta formación me aportó muchísimo. En primer lugar, amplió y enriqueció mi mirada del ser y me permitió adoptar una escucha más fenomenológica con la que encarar el encuentro con el otro en un contexto de terapia desde un lugar más humano. A entender que no es necesario intentar ser un robot aislado de sentimientos y emociones para ser un buen terapeuta, sino todo lo contrario. Es la autenticidad lo que nos vuelve cercanos y lo que permite el encuentro. Para la segunda pregunta, ¿qué te aportó para la vida y para la profesión? Alumna 1. En lo profesional, el tener un fundamento para la práctica y el poder contar con más herramientas para poner en juego en mis intervenciones. En mi vida me ha impactado en la apertura que puedo tener para con el otro y en mi encuentro honesto con él, sensibilizando y humanizando la relación terapéutica y reconociendo el afecto que se pone en juego en ella. Alumna 2. En la profesión, sentir la existencia y escucharla. Y a mí me llamó la atención esta palabra, ¿no? Escuchar a la existencia. Para la vida, en realidad, mi vida es lo mismo que en lo profesional. No sentirme escindida, comprendiendo el sentido de la ética como algo que no es neutral, atender sin dogmatismos, humanizar el vínculo y aflojar el nudo de la corbata. Alumna 3. En la profesión, lo que más me impactó es haber logrado entender que las personas que acuden a mí por ayuda son seres con historia, con una vida, quizás atravesando dificultades que les generan sufrimiento, no la suma de unos cuantos síntomas o una ecuación a resolver. En la vida, siento que luego de transitar esta formación, mis vínculos adquirieron otro valor para mí. Hoy cuido de ellos, no solo por ser personas que quiero y me importan, sino porque yo soy en tanto soy con los otros, de modo que he hallado mi sentido último en el encuentro con ellos. Quedé realmente muy agradecida con todo lo aportado por el equipo de profesores, siempre muy atentos y predispuestos a enseñarnos y evacuar dudas. Me sentí muy acompañada durante la cursada. Sin duda espero que la vida nos permita seguir encontrándonos, uniendo fuerzas para hacer crecer cada vez más la escuela existencial en la Argentina. Bueno, no, porque después tendría que decir cómo enseño. Bueno. Bueno, ahora me gustaría decirles que cómo seguimos en el programa, que ya les dije que si bien hay varios programas diferentes, porque unos son online, otros son presencial, otros son en una universidad o en otra universidad y cada uno tiene un programa diferente, en general yo trato de primero enseñarles a los alumnos lo que yo llamo terapia a puertas abiertas o terapia a puertas cerradas. Y esto es un concepto mío, en realidad las puertas están siempre cerradas aunque uno esté en una plaza, porque a puertas cerradas significa una intimidad, pero un resguardo de la intimidad del paciente, pero a puertas abiertas significa estar abierto al mundo. Entonces, una terapia que acentúa el individualismo, que está ensimismado en la teoría, que usa la técnica como un modo a seguir que le brinda seguridad al terapeuta, que favorece lo reiterado, que acentúa el habla, que si bien está el Midwell como presente en la relación terapéutica, trabaja con el conflicto y con la enfermedad, es una terapia a puertas cerradas. Pero una terapia a puertas abiertas, donde ambos son protagonistas, paciente y terapeuta. Los dos están jugando su propia existencia. Están abiertos a la incertidumbre, nadie tiene algo a seguir, la sesión no está prefijada. Puede utilizar técnicas como una disposición hacia lo novedoso, favorece la creatividad, aspecto muy importante en la relación terapéutica, acentúa la acción como un modo de expresarse en el mundo y todos los aspectos de la mundanidad los tenemos en cuenta. Además, trabaja con el con y con el ser para y favorece la resiliencia. Y nosotros nos paramos en esta posición de una terapia a puertas abiertas, que además también significa que puede hacerse en otro lugar que no sea solamente el consultorio. Y bueno, y algunas de las modalidades que nosotros utilizamos es el role-playing, y el role-playing lo utilizamos de distintas maneras, entre terapeuta que enseña y terapeuta que aprende, y hacemos una relación terapéutica, entre dos terapeutas que son expertos, entre dos terapeutas que están aprendiendo, y así vamos viendo y analizando las distintas posiciones y lo distinto que va surgiendo. La crítica que puedo hacer a esto es que lo que sucede ahí nunca es lo que sucede en una terapia realmente, pero es una forma de aprendizaje. En la terapia de grupo lo hemos llamado que es mucho más un trabajo en vivo y en directo, entre comillas, como se suele decir. Allí tenemos dos formas de trabajar. los estudiantes de terapeutas, ¿no?, pueden concurrir a un grupo que ya esté funcionando de pacientes y lo hacen como estudiantes. O sea, se les avisa a los pacientes que van a ingresar un grupo de estudiantes, lo cual siempre es muy bien aceptado, y los estudiantes no son observadores, sino que son participantes. Participan como terapeutas, pueden hacer intervenciones, preguntas a los pacientes, no quedan como aislados, sino quedan en cámara Gesell, están ahí, en vivo y en directo. Luego lo que nosotros hacemos es nos reunimos con los, si tenemos que hacer alguna intervención modificando alguna conducta de los estudiantes, lo hacemos, porque es un modo de, digamos, cubrir un riesgo que esté supervisado. Y luego, cuando estamos fuera de la sesión, los estudiantes tienen que hacer una descripción fenomenológica de lo sucedido. Y entonces luego comparamos lo que vio uno con lo que vio otro, y así también aprenden a tener la mirada fenomenológica, porque se dan cuenta de lo que vieron y de lo que no vieron a través de las miradas de los demás. Y eso les da una múltiple capacidad de mirar diferente desde diferentes perspectivas.
¿Puede concluir?
Sí, ya termino. Otra de las formas es el análisis de casos, que nosotros llamamos análisis de existencias, y también lo hacemos en los cursos con distintos terapeutas de distintos países. A supervisa B, B supervisa C, y así alternativamente para que todos hayan tenido esa experiencia. Y también recomendamos hacer la propia terapia existencial. Todavía no es obligatorio en nuestros cursos, pero es recomendado. Bueno, voy a dejar acá.
Ok, gracias. Okay, Caterina.
Yes. How many minutes do I have?
5 minutes, but
okay.
There are more.
I am still in each one colleague that has brought their training approaches and programs, and I'm still believing that it's more what unites us than what separates us. I am one of the 3 co-founders. We were 4, but now we're left 3 of the Hellenic Association for Existential Psychology. It's me, Katerina Zimnis, it's Evgenia Yorgandas, it's Alexis Harisiadis, who couldn't be here today. And of course, I'm honored because here most of our co-workers and trainers are here, along with many of our students. We are about 30 people coming from Greece, and I'm thrilled because many of our students are not here because they are listening to presentations of other students and ex-pupils who are ex-students who are presenting here. So we are very proud about this. So our institute, well, now it's coming of age. It's 21 years old, and the story began in 2004. Since I don't have a lot of time to describe our story, I would sum it up with a few words. It's collaboration, it's a lot of effort, a lot of love for the existential approach, love for philosophy, and mostly of all, love for each other. This institute was built on collaboration amongst all of us. So, the program, I would like to say with a lot of pride, I will say the word, that we are an EAP training institute. So we are awarding certification for being an existential therapist in the European Association for Psychotherapy. We began very small, now we are big. One of our latest experiential out of Athens activities, we were more than 100 people sharing stories and sharing experiences and working experientially. So our program is a 4-year program. Actually, we have now 2 programs and 1 is being born. But the main 4-year training accredited year program is based in 2 cycles. The first cycle is the basic cycle, and the second, the third and fourth year are the clinical cycle. But from the beginning, our students are exposed to working with cases. Each student has their own advisor who is following them with recorded sessions and giving them feedback for each one session that they do. You can imagine the amount of the load of work that our trainers have. So we meet every Monday or once per week in each class, first, second, third, and fourth year in our premises. And once per month, all the students meet together, either online, because we have online and simultaneous face-to-face training. So our training is based in philosophy, in the application of psychotherapy, and if I would add something to what has been said today, which we share so many things with the other training institutes, is we work with art. Art is poetry, art is literature, art is music. So this, the realm of art has been a very strong pillar in our education and training. I loved the word, we're not just training people, we're forming existential therapists. If we could describe very briefly what we learn, the first year we have an introduction of the existential umbrella, because as very well said by Yaki, it's not one existential approach, it's many existential approaches, and all are beautiful in themselves. So it's an introduction to the panorama of existential thought, philosophy, and psychotherapy. Our second year, we are focused in the existential humanistic approach. On the third year, it's the phenomenological approach. And the fourth year is a mixture of everything, and having as an aim to help each one of the people who are graduating to create their own vision of who they are as existential therapists. We stress the way of teaching, of forming these people, is about relating, it's about experiencing, it's about having meaningful conversations. All of the exercises and ways of role-playing and what has been said up to now, we all do exactly as you are describing. What our students bring, I don't want to ask now our students, I see many of them there, and some graduates, but I'm a little bit worried that they will not like it because I hadn't prepared them for this. You're moving your head. Yes, if you want to come, I'd be delighted. What most of them say is that coming every week to our premises, they find a drop of health in this very, very difficult moment in the world. So if you ask me how I see Gigneste, I see it as a cell of hope, a cell of courage, a cell of relatedness, a cell where one can be and be different and at the same time together. I want to mention all the people that are here, like Emmy van Dorzen, like Ernesto Spinelli, like Kirk Schneider, like all the people that are here in this conference, Eric Craig, we use their fantastic work. Our students really delve into their work. We thank them very much. We do our contributions as well as we can. We write, we investigate, we try to do our best. Yigneste also is teaching in the universities. I personally am teaching in an American university in Athens. We are teaching, the three of us, in different master's programs in psychotherapy, introducing in the Greek universities existential psychotherapy. This is up to here. I don't know if you want to add something, Evgenia, that I might have forgotten. No? No? I tried to be concise. Tomorrow we will have another presentation of the Hellenic way of training and forming therapists, which I will address the Hellenic values of wisdom and, well, some of the values that we carry, because we are teaching, we are working with existential ideas in a land that is very, very heavy with this legacy of philosophy. So it's like, on the one hand, it's a blessing, on the other hand, it's a burden, because we need to keep up to standards. We do our best. Thank you.
Well, now Semyon Yeselson from Russia. Feria. Okay.
My English is well forgotten because I hope on help my colleague and friend Dmitry. Нас попросили уложиться за 5 минут, и мы постараемся уложиться 5 минут для моего выступления и 5 минут, 5 студентов по минуте, которые опишут разные аспекты жизни нашего сообщества.
So the organizers asked us to make everything in 5 minutes, all the presentation, so we will take 5 minutes, and then our students will take another 5 minutes to present our institute, MEC. MEC has existed for 26 years. Its branches are scattered across the countries of the former Soviet Union. As of now, there are 9 sites of the first level training as well as professional online training program. MEC and in its activities embodies 12 principles. Sorry, I need to slides, yeah? Green one. Okay. So, MEC embodies in its activity 12 principles that express our understanding of existentialism. The core of our ethical principles is a general declaration, which is a modern version of Hippocratic Oath. Our training program consists of 2 levels. The first, therapeutic level, lasts for 3 years. It also includes 12 existential therapy groups, each one 4 days long. The professional level lasts 2.5 years. We also have a system of group supervision, system of internships, a combination of group and personal therapy. All our students also keep therapeutic diaries. Our curriculum, in terms of total training hours, theoretical study, personal therapy, supervisions, and internships exceeds ECP requirements of the EAP. MEC features of MEC training programs. Questo lo stesso ma in italiano. I nostri 12 principi principali, sì, di MEC. Sì, anche, but there is translation, okay. So, MEAC features. In MEAC, we have launched several therapeutic, social, and professional projects. Existential theater therapy, MEAC helpline, Mothers of MEAC, existential travels, existential book exchange, and literary and theatrical online saloon. We invented several genres of existential therapy, such as existential tuning fork in book, film, and narrative versions. Enrica Fermi seminars. Here's the Declaration of Genova. Is a core principle. It's a core of ethical principles, and also in Italian. Phenomenology that we practice in MEAC is close to realistic phenomenology. We are working in the direction of creating phenomenology as a philosophy of the unique. And now we invite our students to.
Hello, everyone. Before I start, I want to thank you all the speakers about very interesting and I would say even profound information. It's really inspiring for me to get to know about the diversity of existential school. So thank you very much, each of you. But I'm a former student of Boris Semyonovich, and he asked me to say a few words about Fermi seminar. I know I only have a couple of minutes, so I decided to share only my personal experience and what this seminar has meant to me. So, first of all, as someone who constantly read and genuinely enjoy reading, this seminar, it was a wonderful opportunity to discover new authors. Secondly, what makes this seminar truly unique is the selection of books Semyon Borisovich offers. They are not limited to psychology. We read works on philosophy, quantum physics, political science, sociology, personal journals, and other books. And that's what makes it so fascinating. For example, when we read Albert Einstein, we are not studying the basics of physics, but rather discovering certain phenomena that are deeply relevant to us as a psychologist. Another special aspect of this seminar is its format. We don't just read, we read together. And for me, this shared experience turned out to be both meaningful and therapeutic. It was so fascinating to observe how each person reading the same book focuses on entirely different things. What, for example, stands out for me may go completely unnoticed by someone else. And it was precisely when we start retelling the book to each other that it begins to unfold in its full richness, as if it starts speaking in all our voices at once. And over this course of my studies, I've come across books that became truly significant for me, and I would say even maybe left a deep mark in my heart. And one of them, by the way, is the work of Mircea Eliade, the Romanian philosopher and scholar of religion. So to sum up all my short talk, the Fermi seminar is a unique experience of collecting reading, a kind of intellectual brainstorming, if you will. It's like a living library that, for me, has been both incredibly valuable and deeply meaningful. Yeah, thank you.
So I graduate everybody. I'm a graduate student at MEC and a volunteer supervisor at the MEC International Helpline Online. It was organized at the beginning of the COVID lockdown and has started its work on September 10, 2020. Currently, it involves 40 volunteers and 11 supervisors from 20 cities from 7 countries that are located at 10 time zones. And I'm making a work schedule of this big group of people. Everyone is a student of MEC, and supervisors are teachers of the training program. It consists of 110 hours of lectures and practical exercises. There are also individual and group supervisions and meetings with visiting psychiatrics, and this is the way that health and professional level of the project participants are maintained. Each volunteer at Helpline organizes his own workplace. And until recently, we used Skype, and now we go live via Telegram. And I think that it is a great school of rapid listening and understanding. Thank you.
During and after each session at the Institute of Therapeutic Psychology, we kept diaries. For me, a therapeutic diary was above all a way to put into words my experiences, emotions, sudden realization, and emerging insights. In the group, I often felt that something had matched me deeply, but I couldn't quite grasp what it was. That's when the diary came to the rescue. I would start writing, reflecting, analyzing, as if gently pulling by the tail whatever had steered me. As I write, I dive deeper into my inner world. I pour out my heartache, renew myself, find clarity, and begin to see my problems from a broader, more spacious perspective. The diary can hold anything. With it, I can be completely myself, sometimes even more so than with a therapist. Sometimes I write poems and songs based on my diaries. So for me, it is also an opportunity to express my creativity, which is born from my reflection. Thank you.
There is a special project at MEC called Pushkinodvorye. It is an existential experience of collective reading of a fiction text. The origin of this project began in 2010. Every year in September, a WhatsApp chat is created, which can be joined by participants from different cities and countries. A fiction work is jointly selected, which is then read and discussed one chapter per month. In-person meetings of participants are held once a month. The discussion is regulated by experts. For example, last year was the year of Shakespeare. Earlier, there were the years of Dostoevsky, Pushkin, Saint-Exupéry. Now is the year of the 19th century writer Ivan Goncharov. At the end of the reading year in August on Яблочный Спас, an existential theater production is staged based on the work read. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, let me introduce our book club. It is an interesting form of existential therapy. A book is chosen and read by all participants before the group session. A facilitator is selected to lead the discussion. Each member shares their impressions and what was meaning to them. This allows everyone to see what others value and enriches the group's collective experience. Before the new year, they organize a secret Santa project. Each participant chooses a book as a gift for another members and sends an anonymously. The recipient doesn't know which book they will receive until they open it. Later, we hold another book club session based on these gifted books. It is a unique way to support each other's growth. They discuss the personal value found in each story. Thank you for your attention.
Because we have not introduced, yes, Natalia Gladkaya was the first who introduced MEC project, so-called Enrico Fermi seminars. Then Yelena Shustikova introduced another MEC project, MEC International Helpline. Then Anna Bilaya introduced MEC project Existential Diaries. Then Luisa Etumian introduced MEC project Book Exchange. And finally, Жанна Rusina, yes, Жанна Rusina, of course, yes, introduced literary and theatrical saloon MEC existential project. So,
ну, в настоящее время на первом и на терапевтическом и профессиональном уровне МИЭК учатся 150 человек, а еще во всех программах, которые мы описывали, задействовано еще порядка 200 человек. Это на настоящее время.
So at the moment, at our first therapeutic level, there are 150 students who are studying at the moment. And then we have another 200 students who are involved in different MEC projects.
И так вот МИЭК существует во многом благодаря принципам Пауля Тилиха, что мы живем не благодаря, а несмотря на.
So MEC lives and exists mainly according to a Paul Tillich principle that we live not due to, but despite of.
Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you. And this was MEC founder and Semyon Yesilson.
Bene, Gianfranco ha dovuto assentarsi per un impegno urgente, importante. Tocca a me chiudere questa sessione. E prima di dare però la parola a qualche domanda eventuale, vorrei capire se mi sta, scusate, dicevo, prima di dare la parola, vorrei fare un appello a tutti i relatori. Non disperiamo di poter pubblicare gli atti di questo convegno con un'iniziativa che è appena partita. Come istituto stiamo organizzando un'agenzia letteraria, Isue Editions, e quindi vi prego, appena vi è possibile, di inviarci un abstract o quello che riterrete più opportuno, perché noi raccoglieremo tutto il materiale, lo metteremo in ordine secondo le indicazioni che ci darete e pubblicheremo gli atti di queste 3 giornate. Vi ringrazio in anticipo per questo e per la vostra disponibilità. C'è qualche domanda che volete porre ai nostri relatori? Non vedo mani alzate, sicché penso che possiamo concederci un break. Grazie a tutti. per il vostro intervento.